Yeah, it's flat.
All right, so that is what we'll focus on this morning. So we've got Festus Osifo, who is the president of PENGASSAN, and also TUC, as a matter of fact. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning, Chambali. Good morning, Mawume. Good morning, Nigerians.
Yeah, so that's on the part of Labour. But we do have Alhaji Zarama Mustafa, who is the deputy president of IPMAN. He joins us from our studios in Maiduguri. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program as well. We'll get to hear from him also in the course of the program. But then government also negotiated with Labour, so we will have at least some perspective in that regard, we reckon, as the program also progresses. So let's start off with this. Yesterday there was so much confusion. We thought that Labour was going to go ahead, have this meeting with government before we then expect to see what the price template was. Yeah. Because before that time, there was also this narrative out there that credited to government saying this quote-unquote fuel subsidy removal will not take immediate effect. And then many also had the impression that, okay, well, if they say they had pulled it off, it will take off, what, at the end of June or thereabout? So many were waiting. But when that price template came through, people thought, this marketer is trying to be clever by half. But then NNPC put up a statement saying, well, we have gone ahead and adjusted it. So how did all of this fit into that negotiation or conversation between Labour and government?
Yes, thank you so much, Chamberlain. That was really that was where the issue started from, actually, because at the end of the day, we had an understanding a day before. Myself and the NLC president, we had an understanding with government that, okay, we are going to have a meeting yesterday at about 2 p.m. So we were going about trying to get, okay, those that will participate in the meetings, because our members are spread all over the country. Our officers are spread all across. So we're reaching out to them. Okay, let's have this meeting 2 p.m. But to our surprise, around this time yesterday, so the information went out there. We saw the template the same way that you saw it in the media. So it was circulating in the social media. We tried to reach out to the government officials to find out, is this actually from you? So before you know, the other statement came from NNPC as well. So that caused that level of panic across the country. Just as you see a lot of stations, they now started selling these PMS, they threw their gates open and they started selling the PMS. So that actually put us in a very tight corner. You won't call for a meeting, then you are not taking actions that are putting the other party in a very difficult situation. So that was exactly what happened. So that altered the mood of the meeting, because our thought was, we will come in there, we come in with our ideas, we come in with our thoughts, then at the end of the day, we go back to our organs and give them feedback. But immediately that came, it changed the entire mood of the discussion. So, so for us, we saw it as an ambush. That you don't invite your social partners for conversation on the way forward, and you are taking actions that are also that are also putting them in a very difficult position. So clearly, what was done yesterday for us, it was not the best that could have been done. Yeah.
So what was the impression Labour gleaned from government? Was government aware of this? Was it a deliberate action or what?
Yes, we learned that the initial one that came out was not a deliberate action from government, but it was a kind of a working document, but it went to the press. So probably it was leaked. So when that came out, they now needed to put up the other statement that came in order to make the market understand that, okay, this is the direction to go. So the initial one, I mean, there was apologies that they didn't do it intentionally to put us in such a difficult situation. But they were thinking that probably after the meeting, when we must have agreed after the meeting and have those conversations, then if need be, they will not go ahead. But because the content actually went out before, so they now needed to own it. So that was part of the explanation that we got.
Well, Mr. Osifo, this was never going to be an easy decision. It would seem that I mean, we've been having these discussions, even not just on Sunrise Daily, also on hard copy. And we've been, I think this was since when the PIA was passed, that we've been having these discussions on what you think will happen to the subsidy regime. But let me quickly look at what has happened so far in the last couple of days since the president read out his speech. And it is a speech that has, will I say, accelerated the speed to where we currently are, when he did say subsidy is gone. And then the very next day, we see that the queues at the filling stations in anticipation of the removal of subsidy. People quickly want to buy, and then before you know what's happening, there was chaos because marketers were selling at whatever price suited them for those that opened their gates. And for those that did not open their gates, some of them had the products or were refusing to sell. As of yesterday, I do not know, whether you also had people who were monitoring what was happening. As of yesterday, in some places, when the NNPC eventually did say, this was the price they were going to be selling at, in some places, the queues were there, the gates were open, people were refusing to buy. People were refusing to enter to buy. In some other places, people drove in and they bought.
Yeah, sure.
In places like Abuja, the queues all but disappeared. I mean, we didn't see any queues in Abuja. Now, if you drive into any filling station, even filling stations that have not been selling for a while are now selling. So I'm looking at the statement that Labour has released here, especially that of the NLC. It says government cannot in one breath be talking about deregulation and at the same time fixing the prices of petroleum products. This negates the spirit of allowing the operation of free markets unless the government has usurped, captured, or become market forces. And I'm wondering, is it that Labour thinks that at some point government should have no role to play in terms of the price that petroleum products are sold? Is that the belief of Labour?
Okay, before I come to that question, in the intro, you said something about people refusing to sell. I spoke with a marketer, a member of one of the marketing outlet organizations. So I spoke with them and I tried to find out what happened. The price was announced and immediately you are selling at XYZ price. So I was told that, that the problem is this, that he had a fixed amount of money he's doing his business with, that he buys one tank, about 45,000 liters for every 1 week. And he spends also amount to buy this product, that if they increase the price to, let's say, 500 naira, as at that time, that he was buying it at about 150 naira. But if the price is moved to 500, that means the cost is going to be tripled. So if he doesn't sell at 500 today, he will not be able to have money to buy when the product increases. So that was the explanation that he gave. Although we had a to and fro conversation, let's leave that.
Which sounds totally logical.
Yeah. So so back to the question you asked. Please remind me again that particular question.
Yeah, about whether or not the government was also always going to play a role if Labour is not
okay. So those are the conversations that we must have. Mm-hmm. The conversations should be much more deeper than that. Okay, today I saw you in the paper review talking about the new exchange rate. CBN just came out, they've announced a new, if that is correct, as reported by that particular daily, then that means tomorrow, what stops them again from saying that the exchange rate is 1,000 naira? What stops them again from saying the exchange rate is 1,200? So now, how do you get to how do you fix pump price? Or how do you determine the price of the PMS at the pump? You have to factor in cost of production, and most of the cost of production is actually in USD. Then at the end, you now dovetail it into, or you convert it to Naira. You use the exchange rate. So if the exchange rate is fixed arbitrarily, then that means tomorrow we could buy PMS for as high as 1,500 Naira. So now, we don't believe that you should leave it 100% to the vagaries of the market today you could realize that the cost of kerosene has gone up to about 1,000 naira. So we have asked some questions. This cost of kerosene, where are they sourcing their FX from? If they were sourcing their FX from CBN, the cost of kerosene wouldn't have been up to that amount. But because they go to parallel market to source for their FS, that is why kerosene is like that. So those are some of the questions that we have thrown to government. That now, what is the exchange rate that is going to be used? How is that also going to be controlled? Are you going to leave this to marketers to make margins of 200 naira, 300 naira, 400 naira per liter? So how are all these going to be done? Those are the understanding that we must all sit down and we must have that conversation.
So it would seem that if you already agree that at some point subsidy was going to go, the question was how. I think for a number of people that was the key question. How and what will be how will we be able to mitigate the untoward effects it will have on the people? Because I think what people say on the economy, it is the people that make up the economy. That conversation is still very pertinent. Some people will say it's still very pertinent, but it will only be able to happen only if we're able to see the areas where people are most affected. You don't agree?
No, absolutely, absolutely. You know, that is actually what Labour has been championing and pushing over the years. That you don't bring some policies that at the end of the day that will affect the people. A lot of policies of government, the people have bear the brunt. If you look at several policies, the only thing today that the people get relatively cheap compared to the cost of production is this PMS. Look at every other areas. The Nigerian workers are battered. Look at other areas. The masses are subjected to loss of hardship. But the only item is this, and you want to take it away. So taking it away, what are the alternatives? And that is why, before now, we've been having conversations. And one of the things government told us was that they are going to provide CNG. They were the one that brought it. They were the one that told us.
Compressed natural,
yes. So in 2020, they told us. And we told them, okay, start providing this. With 2020, we are in 2023. There is no progress on that. So those are the broken promises that is really making us scared that today, a lot of trade unions, you have MOU, you have MOA, they are not being respected. Even some of the policies that government sits down on its own to design, when they are implementing it, they default on it. So how do you trust the same government to be able to see this through as well? So these are the real challenges that we are having in Labour.